All right. And it's always the times. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I had no sound. So here it is. I'm banging on. No one hears a single thing I'm saying. My apologies. All right. Let's get back to what I was saying. Whew, that's embarrassing. Alrighty. Thank you for that, man. I owe you one. I owe you one, sir. And how the heck do I get that font back to normal? Font default. Ah, that's so much better. And there we go. Just the way I like things. Thank you for that, man. I really appreciate that. It never fails. When I check it, it's working. When I don't check it, it doesn't work. All right. So let's see. All right. Let's see if can I swap that? All right. So what's happening here is I saw this post this morning before my first cup of coffee. And I think it's important we dig down into the story here because I think people are talking past each other. And what I think is important is this part here because I think the context was lost. And the context is good. You can hear me good? Thank you, sir. I owe you one, man. All right. So he said recently he was talking with someone who was looking to get a job as a data engineer. Unfortunately, he was learning about LLMs and other ML stuff. So I had to set him straight. All right, first off, if you're learning LLMs and machine learning stuff, you're a data scientist, not a data engineer. Hate to break it to you, right? It's more what I do now, right? The rest is mostly true. I would say if you look at this, 99.5% of companies are still using old, boring technologies like MS SQL. One, I don't think SQL is boring. It's certainly old. And SSIS. So those who don't know, SSIS stands for SQL Server Integration Services. Basically, it's how you run pipelines and packages to manipulate data, move data from point A to point B. That's it. That is a fundamental concept in data engineering, whether it's on Spark, whether it's on OpenShift, whether it's on any platform you can imagine, right? Moving data around, transforming it in motion is a fundamental skill, whether that's on the cloud, on-prem, anywhere. It's still important, right? Old boring tech will teach you the fundamentals. I think that's true, right? If you know how to count in binary, even if you don't use it on a daily basis, you know why memory cards, phone memory, storage tends to be in powers of 2, right? You just kind of know. So the fundamentals, I don't know if they're old boring, but fundamentals mattered a lot more in the olden days than they do now. Well, I don't like the way that came out. But you know what I mean? Like you had to actually know how much memory footprint a program had if you were in the memory constraints. We really don't have that anymore. Although arguably LLMs are kind of bringing that back into fashion. And then once you get a job, you can explore new technologies for fun. Yeah, new technologies are always fun. And if you don't find technology, new stuff fun and exciting, you'll do okay in this field, but you won't have longevity in this field. Right? I've been doing this longer than I care to admit since Kurt Cobain was still alive. So I know of which I speak. He is right, though. A lot of this stuff that's out here, well, let me select the text. Is that an image? No, there it is. 90, what did I do? 95% of companies are still using old, boring technologies. This is true, right? I have a talk about this that I'm going to be delivering soon, is that most companies do not have their data estate in order at all, like remotely at all. The ones we see the highlight reels, right? The Microsofts, the Googles, the Spotifys, the Netflixes of the world. They have it all figured out. Everyone else really doesn't, right? They're in various states of disarray, right? Clearly they have a data estate. right? Is it well organized? I mean, that really depends. Now, I think this is where the controversy really started here, right? Like where he's saying, first off, if you're learning ML stuff and LLMs, you're a data scientist, AI engineer. You're not a data engineer. Data engineering is a crucial part of the technology stacks, but it's much further down, right? If you're learning LLMs and ML stuff, you are much higher on the value ladder. Well, I don't like the way that sounds either. But you are at a much higher level of abstraction. So what she said, this is actually true. Don't chase after every shiny thing. I learned this lesson the hard way. I chased after every shiny thing, whether it was WPF, whether it was Silverlight, whether it was Windows Phone, whether it was Windows 8 development, client development. It was very easy to get fascinated with the shiny stuff. I did not get into the band development. I did not get it for Microsoft Band or smartwatch development. Didn't get into that because I just ran out of time. And the platform ended up dying before I got into it. So, thank God for small miracles. All right. So I would disagree that learning SQL Server and SSIS if you want to be a data engineer. SQL Server, you absolutely is one of the platforms you should learn. RDBMSs are going to be around for a very long time, and I don't remember what I said before I had the audio fixed versus after, but SQL Server is going to be around a long time. RDBMSs are going to be around for a long time, and if it's not in SQL Server, it's either in Postgres, Oracle, or DB2. Those things are going to be around. A lot of things are locked up in that. Now, SSIS, I think, is a little more of a nuanced question, right? Anytime I've seen Andy do this talk, you say, how many people here use SSIS? Like 3/4 of the room, hands go up. How many people have migrated to ADF, which is Azure Data Factory, which is basically the cloud version of SSIS, more or less, or SSIS as a service, I like to call it. Most people are still using on-prem. Data estates are notoriously sticky and notoriously laden with tech debt. Now, with that in mind, consider that as you learn technology. A lot of people are chasing after the new shiny. See, I don't get this. Oh, I see now. Okay. Don't chase after every shiny thing, right? As I work on training materials and things for upcoming conference at Red Hat, we kind of joke like this. Some of the stuff we're writing about may be supplanted and outdated by the time of the conference in just a few months. So AI is a fast-moving space, and make sure you're okay with that when you're kind of get into it. But SQL Server still has, if you want to be a SQL Server administrator, plenty of job opportunities still for that. If you want to be someone who writes SSIS packages, you'll get a job. You should probably learn ADF and SSIS because a lot of companies are thinking about moving that up to the cloud. Or you should probably learn Fabric because I think Fabric is really where they're headed longer term, and it's probably going to be an umbrella kind of term for their on-prem and their cloud-based tooling. But again, learning the concept, that individual technology is really irrelevant in the sense that it's really the concept of it, right? The idea of creating an SSIS package, which creates a pipeline that moves data from one place to another and does some transformation along the way. I think that's really the skill to learn and to master. So you got that figured out. You could do it in Spark. You could do it anywhere. Yeah, and then Andy kind of, I think, might have taken it personally because he's an SSIS expert and an Azure Data Factory guy. He uses T-SQL, SSIS, ADF, Fabric Data Factory, and other tech supported by Microsoft. Microsoft's not going anywhere. But again, I think it gets back to the original thing. If you are learning LLMs, you're not a data engineer, right? Oh, if you are if you are trying to become a data engineer by learning LLMs, that is not the path to go on, right? That is like saying I'm learning to be a doctor by studying Ferraris, right? And Ferrari shopping. A lot more has to go in before you get to the Ferrari, right? You have to go through the education, pay back your loans, then get the Ferrari. And I think it's kind of putting the cart before the horse. That is basically a condensed version of what I said earlier. And um, before I had the audio thing fixed. If you want to check out my book I wrote with my sister from another mister, you can check that out by scanning the QR code here. Thank goodness the regular font is back. The price has actually been reduced, um, so you could check it out. I'll leave that up for another minute. But with that in mind, SQL Server, SSIS, these are still good career opportunities. Now, will that be the same way in 10 years? I can't predict the future. If I could predict the future, I'd be working the tables in Vegas. Um, and Yeah, I mean, data engineering is one of those things that I mean, that's a term that really didn't exist before, much before 10 years ago, right? I remember saying that, thinking that, DBAs, right? You were basically a SQL kind of expert and you were a database administrator, right? That was it. Game over, right? But I think that the rise of big data, the rise of machine learning, the rise of AI, data science, has really made the need for getting data from one state, whether it's the raw state, whether it's a relational state, whether it's vectorized, getting it between those is very much a data engineering problem. Getting that to happen at scale in an automated fashion is data engineering, right? And that's really the core skill to work with, right? Because data is a lot like clay, right? Like in and of its own, or you know what? I just got a 3D printer actually, and I'll talk about that in a future stream. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to kind of show that off. But the important thing to keep in mind is that just like, so 3D printers work by taking filament, which is basically plastic that's been made, and it shapes it into something else. Data is a lot like that raw filament, right? It's on a spool, right? It's just as it was kind of, spooled on, as it were. When you can actually do useful things with it is the process of data engineering, right? Of data science, of you know AI engineering, right? Where you take it's really AI engineering. Data science is really focused on the algorithms that take that raw data, take the data from that raw state into something usable, then taking that something usable and then creating a model out of it, whether that's a large language model, whether that's a predictive model, whether it's Sora, right? It's all kind of the same thing. Input data, magic happens, output to a model, right? That kind of middle space is really where that is. Data engineering is the process all between that, right? And you've heard me do, if you've heard me, I call it the rock stars and roadies, right? Data engineers are the roadies of the AI world, right? They set up the lights, they set up the stage, they set up the sound, they do the wardrobe, they do everything. And then data scientists are the ones that kind of come in and do the performance, as it were. So I would say learn it all. Learn what you can. Always be learning. That's what I like to say. And with that in mind, I have to go because it's a crazy week, and I'll catch you later. But let me know in the comments below what you think. What tools do you use? Right? What is the Oracle equivalent of SSIS? How prevalent is it? I bet you it's pretty prevalent. And now, in context, prevalent doesn't necessarily mean superior. It just means widely adopted. And if you're looking for job opportunities, wide adoption is what you're looking for. Narrow adoption is not what you're looking for. And I know of what I speak because of Windows Phone. In any case, I hope you have a great one, and I will catch you later, and I will play the outro graphic, and hopefully I'll have no more AV issues.